Today while you were at work, I was thinking over a question that I've actually been getting a lot from people online. Are there any K-dramas based on Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen? To my knowledge, no. But that got me thinking there should be, because they're very basic formulas, but they're very romantic. And nobody in the world is doing romance like K-dramas. So I decided, wouldn't it be a great use of my time to take some of my favorite Jane Austen books and cast them with some of my favorite K-drama performers. You're welcome! Okay, side note, I did study literature in college, so I've definitely read all of these books and not just watched the public television versions over and over and over. So let's start with Pride and Prejudice, because that's the one most people are familiar with. And obviously we'd have to update the story a little bit. Very timeless story, boy meets girl, boy and girl hate each other, but really that's because they love each other so much, which is like K-drama gold, am I right? We need a very strong female character for Elizabeth Bennet, the heroine of Pride and Prejudice. Immediately I'm thinking, Go-Ara. She is tough, she is charming, she's funny, she's sweet, she's everything. I think to update the story, we make it in the world of business, where maybe her grandparents started some kind of great business, so the business isn't what it used to be, and her dad's kind of let it go, and she and her sisters are trying to make it something again. And then she's always butting heads with these huge conglomerate families like the Darcys. For Mr. Darcy, the person I keep hearing about as everybody's favorite dude is Park Seo-joon, so I thought, why not let him take on this iconic role? While he is very sweet and charming, I can see him doing the tsundere kind of like, don't love me, I love you, but don't love me thing. I would like to see that. So then you need Wickham, who's Mr. Charmer. The whole time you're like, oh, this is the male lead. He is the best. Who would be more fun in that role than Nam Joo-hyuk? Jane Austen's side pieces. They are not always the best dudes, but they are some fun characters. Then let's go to Emma, which I think would be easier to update because what is that story really other than a bunch of neighbors? And this Emma character is staying with her dad, doesn't want to leave. I think Han Yi-sol would be great in this. She's so fun to watch, and she, I think, has what it takes to have that like banter back and forth with Mr. Knightley, but also just can like let loose and have fun and be kind of a low-key easygoing character, but also is capable of portraying like a lot of these burdens that she's holding on to and taking care of in her life. I think Mr. Knightley would be Jo Jung-soo. Again, that level of banter would be expert. He's got that kind of like push you away for your own good vibe, but then always would be like, no, really, I loved you the whole time. And for Frank Churchill, the one who's kind of playing her around, he's a lead, could have so much fun with this role. Yoon Si-yoon. Charming, delightful, young, fun. Perfect Frank Churchill. And for Harriet, who's another really important character, this friend that all this confusion happens with, Han Yi-sol's co-star from 20th Century Boy and Girl, Ryu Hyun-kyung, because I thought that they had amazing chemistry. I think that I would love to see them in something again. Sense and Sensibility. Again, harder to update, but almost easier to update because it's just about a bunch of people who lose all their money and have to move to the countryside. So I think for the two main characters, Marianne and Eleanor Dashwood, we have Marianne, the younger, more free-spirited, romantic Lee Sung-kyung, and then for her older sister, Hwang Jun-eum, a little more reserved, a little quieter, but very powerful internally. Edward, who is the older sister's love interest, a kind of quiet kind, somebody who can portray that kind of like sweet awkwardness in their physical acting. So I said Min Nam-goong, and again I would love to see he and Hwang Jung-eum play off of each other again. Then for Colonel Brandon, who, side note, if you've seen the film that came out in the 90s, he's Alan Rickman, who is an older gentleman. So we've always thought of Colonel Brandon as like kind of a much older dude. Wikipedia says Colonel Brandon's 35. So that is offensive. But I thought Soji Sub. Colonel Brandon is by far my favorite male character in Jane Austen because he is that like quiet, strong, sort of like fascinating character who's always off to the side, who comes in and sort of steals your heart. Soji Sub, he'd be great. Holds back and pines, and then swoops in at the end. And I would like that. This is my favorite Jane Austen story. It's Persuasion. It's this old maid, unmarried at the old age of 27. And it's because when she was younger, this amazing guy that she was crazy in love with proposed to her. Her family was like really snobby and said, like, convinced her to say no. They were like, he's not good enough for you, so you can't marry him. And she was persuaded to say no to him. Flash forward to she's now 27, washed up, never gonna find love. He comes back and now he's a wealthy sea captain. Again, we'd have to make some changes to modernize it a little bit. She's still very much in love with him. She's never loved anyone else, and her fortune is gone. Her family has squandered all their money. The lead character is Anne Elliot. You think of her as like a weak-willed character, but she's not. She's an inner strength that's really interesting. Our lady of K-dramas, Gong Hyo-jin. What better way to put her and Gong Yoo back in a show? We make Gong Yoo Captain Wentworth. He's strong, he's handsome, he's kind of mad the whole time, which is super fun and sexy. And then for William Elliot, who's the foil, we want Lee Min-ho and Gong Hyo-jin to be in a show together. Let's give Lee Min-ho the villain role. We can make William Elliot a lot more interesting and a lot more evil. Retired sea captain, probably not. I'm thinking he just goes off and gets rich. He comes back to their hometown where she's had to move back because they've lost their fortune. They keep running into each other, and he's still mad at her and she's still in love with him. Then by the end they finally confessed and it's beautiful and everybody wins and we love it. So yeah, hope you had a good day at work.